Welcome to Ladies Talk Show. This is your host, Leah Richheimer. We have a really exciting show for you today. We're going deep very fast. This is the deep dive into questions that are on your mind, and we're getting emails in. Thank you very much for sending them. info@ladiestalkshow.com. And we are going to try and one by one go through all of the questions so we can have people understand not only what will help them in their marriage and to reach their slimness and their perfection, but also when people hear your question, like, that's me, or I'm like that, or I have something similar. So thank you very much for being vulnerable to share your questions, because they really drive the education of everybody. Okay, fine. Okay, what questions do we got for me today, Gayla?
Okay, so Basti is asking, I'm busy and my husband is busy. I know everyone recommends date night, but we have a great marriage and neither of us feel the need to have the pressure of a date night. I always feel guilty that we don't do it when it's so highly recommended. But if we're busy and both happy, does it really matter?
That's true. Well, the thing about date night, it's really connect night. You know what I mean? Woo, you're doing this, he's doing that. You know, maybe during the day you have adequate time to discuss everything. But the thing that's gewaldic about date night, and it doesn't need to, you said the pressure of date night. Like I think of date night, I don't think of pressure. It's like, oh, I don't have to cook today. I think, okay, I have to get dressed and make fancy and, whatever, look nice. But if you're saying it's pressure and it's whatever, maybe you're too much is going, too much planning and stuff is going into it. Maybe you need to get a babysitter. Maybe you need to, make sure that everything is taken care of in the house, that everyone's done their homework and whatever. So maybe that is make it stressful to get everybody into bed before you go out on your date night. So I can hear that it's stressful, but basically what you're saying, you have a happy marriage and everything's going fine. The thing that date night does, or any time of conversations that take longer than 5 minutes and that aren't with your phone scrolling at the same time, or a flip phone, whatever it is, what makes it powerful is that you're spending half an hour, 3 hours together connecting, and the that builds resilience for when things aren't so pretty. So like you could be, let's say, you say, no, we get along fine and whatever. And maybe for the last 4 months, nothing has happened really that is dramatic. But all of a sudden the car crashes and you don't have the money to buy the new car. And you don't, like, so the hiccups of life, the big hiccups, little hiccups, easier for me to say, when those happen, if you've had this bonding close time together, it's kind of like a netting that, so when the challenges come, you've got more stamina to withstand what the slings and arrows of life. So my advice is, if it's way too stressful for you to get out like that, I would definitely set aside time at least once a week where no phones. You go in, it's nighttime or whatever, and the kids are asleep, and you go into the den or you go outside in the back porch, depending on the weather and what your house looks like in your apartment or wherever you are. Just have real private time where you can talk about all kinds of things. And again, during that time, I would not bring up, like, and all your complaints, like, blah, blah, this happened and then that, whatever. Manage it well. Use your duct, where's my duct tape? Use your duct tape so that you can, share and have enjoyable time together. There's times for logistic conversations, and this is different. This is a conversation where you just ask, oh, well, yeah, one time you mentioned at your work that you had that this project was going on. Whatever happened to that? It's just it's connecting on a deep way. So my advice is to try and look for ways to get that kind of connecting time. If you already have that, good on you, Diano, that's it, you're done. But if you don't have that on a regular basis, then when things do happen, you'll be lacking that little bit more of resiliency. Excellent question. Okay, what else you got for me?
Okay, Raisel's asking, I got married 2 months ago and life was perfect. Then my husband had a serious car accident. He's now wheelchair bound. It's a miracle he isn't paralyzed, but I went from being a kaila to a carer. I hate that this is my life. I didn't marry someone to become their carer. I also hate him not wearing a seatbelt, which would have made things much less severe. I act kindly towards him, but inside I'm burning with anger and sadness.
I'm really sorry. Mm. Oy, 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 oy. So, I mean, yeah, that's like, wow, wow. Okay, so that is definitely not something standing on one foot that we can answer on a talk show. You know, this is something you definitely seriously need to get some support around you, some people you can talk to about your anger and rage, because it'll come through to him in some man in other manners, and it's not good for your health to be that upset about it. I totally get where you're holding, but you need to get number one, you need to get supported, whether that means a therapist, whether that means you go speak to Rebbitzin and say, I need, I'm drowning here. I'm having, this is a really a tough time. I'm actually surprised that in your community, maybe they have done this, but I'm surprised that people haven't reached out to you and said, I went through a hard time. You want to talk, but it could just be that you just yourself pick yourself up by the bootstraps, get your sister, your friend, your cousin, your mother, your aunt, somebody, and say, I need support right now. Can you help me find a therapist? Can you help me find somebody to get me out of the house at least 3 times a week for 2 hours at a time, so that for my own mental health, to, go shopping, to sit out on the porch, do nothing, to sit, to go for a walk, to, like that. You need to get yourself so that you can have the stamina to heal yourself, heal your husband, and to also get over the challenge that Hashem has given you. And it's so, so crucial in a time like this, and it's very hard to do. So you have to understand, first of all, I have Rahmanas, I have compassion for where you're holding and what you're going through. It's very challenging. It's very, very challenging. But you have to realize that your own ability to handle this is getting, there's a potential when something like this happens to push Hashem away or to draw him closer. And people go one of two directions. And when hard things happen, they often go one or two directions. And it's very easy to push away because anger and upset and whatever. And why did Hashem do this to me? And there's another thing is like, Hashem, I need you right now. You see the difficulty I'm going through. Hashem, I don't know why I got this. I know it's for the good. Doesn't feel like it's for the good or whatever, but please, please help me. Please, I wanted this caregiver to work out. And she said, oh, she'll think about whether she's going to take the job. I need her. Please soften her heart so that she comes to work for us for the best low price that we can afford. Please help, my husband to get, to his physical therapist said our insurance can only pay once a week. And he'd improve so much faster if we had it twice a week. Please help him to heal. This is a time to draw Hashem closer and closer to you if you can. Sometimes it's hard because there's so much upset and anger and frustration, but that's, I think, going to be your saving grace. That's going to help you through these times. Get yourself supported, get yourself surrounded, find articles or books or podcasts, find something where someone says that had a similar thing happen, how to deal with tragedy, how to deal with car accidents, how to survive, how to, mentally prepare yourself and strengthen and give yourself koyach to carry forward. So what the first thing that happens when tragedy or crisis strikes is we go offline in our ability to take care of ourselves and to do the things we need to do. And hopefully my voice is a voice of reason of, oh yeah, those would be good ideas. Like, sometimes we're just so buried in taking care of the minutia of every day and feeling so awful that we don't have the umbrella vision, out here vision to help ourselves. And I'm hoping this conversation I'm having with you is a wake-up call to get yourself supported. Just do one thing. Even maybe that's how it feels overwhelming. Just do one thing. Call one friend. Call one Rebbitzin. Call somebody that would help you walk through and say, hi, I listen. I'm having a really challenging time with what has happened to me in my life. I need support, and the support I need is I need you to help me to find a support group. I need you to help me to find a book that can help me. I need you to, call my mom and tell her she should offer to cook me dinner every night for the next 3 months. Whatever it is, If you don't have someone like that, try and ask your Rebbitzin, find a Rebbitzin who might be able to help you. And when you speak with this person, if you feel like they're not going to really be that there for you, and just in the conversation, like, well, I've got so much going on and whatever, say, you know what, that's all right. I'll find someone else. Get off the phone, cry because that's hard and sad, and you put yourself out there and find somebody else. Okay, from the bottom of my heart, Hashem should bench you, that you should have oh yeah, to deal with the challenges that are put in front of you. Hashem should bench. Okay. Ooh.
Amen. Yeah, that was amazing. And Batsheva, good job sending in the question because that means you're already taking steps and helping yourself. Tanya's question is, I realized over the years of marriage that my husband has a problem with watching his eyes. What is the right approach to help him not to look instead of getting upset and angry with him?
It's very good. So in one sense, it's not your business. You're not his boss and his policeman. And I recommend in a million, wake me up for chakras. No, no, no. You get an alarm clock, buy him the 10 alarm clocks at whatever price. Make him be the policeman of his own, managing his own life. It's not a good job for a woman to be a policeman for her husband. It'll always backfire. And if he says, no, 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 I really want you to wake me, say, I'm so afraid to, because I was taught, but that our Masorah is that a woman shouldn't be her husband's policeman, and it's putting me in an awkward position. And I'd just feel so much happier if you used this alarm clock. Really talk him into it. So being the policeman to your husband is always a bad idea. So in terms of watching his eyes, almost if you're upset or you're mad or you're whatever, it's just going to backfire. There's nothing good that can ever come. Don't look at that, or why did you look at that? Whatever. It's bad. What you can do is you can have a deep heart to heart one time when you're in a light and airy date night, or you're on a long walk, and say, there's an issue I want to talk to you about. Please, at any point in this conversation, say, I don't feel like talking about it, and I'm over it. I'm like done. I will not talk about this anymore. But I've been learning a lot about this, guarding your eyes or whatever, and I know it's like incredibly hard for husbands to guard their eyes, and some people have it easier and some people have it harder. Some people have it impossibly hard to not guard their eyes. And someone I was talking to said that what they do is they say, look at your shoes, look at your shoes. And I saw I heard that this Rebbitzin tells her kids, they all look at their shoes. And it's a big joke in the family, but it's a lighthearted way of taking care of everybody. I don't want to be your policeman. I think that's a bad idea. But is that something, like, if I notice something before you notice something or whatever, is that something that you'd be open to? Or you'd be like, if that's going to like totally annoy you in 0.001%, it's going to annoy you, I won't do it. But it's like, oh, I really do kind of want to watch my eyes a little bit more. That would actually be helpful. And that wouldn't make me mad. I'd kind of laugh and look at my shoes, be like, oh, I'm wearing those ugly shoes or whatever, I need new shoes, whatever it is. So this is something to broach with your husband in a warm, wonderful way. And if he isn't open to it, that's it. Your job is done. You are not his policeman. Any policing you do of our husbands in any way has the opposite effect. Just remember that. As you're like that, why did you look at that? Or why did how come you didn't blah, 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 blah? Just realize that is going to double down and is going to cost twice as much of him looking at the wrong place. Is going to have the exact opposite effect. Okay. That's just the way it is. That's human nature. I could go into lots of details of why that's so. It just is. Actually, I don't even know why Hashem created him that way. I don't know, created us. If he were to say to you, stop eating that cheesecake you're in the middle of eating, would that stop you? No, I'm right. It's like that's human nature. So be very careful with how you handle that. Good luck with it. And that's your job is primarily to work on yourself. If you can say a cute little, sweet little things and it might work, and you have good communication with your husband, I would try it. But if you do not have good communication and you see that's really going to fail, don't even try it, and work on yourself to use your duct tape and zip your lip. Okay. What else you got for me,
I'm
Pam?
wondering if there's a correlation in like how she dresses and puts herself together and if that has an effect on it or it's two separate subjects.
It's a good question. I don't know the answer. I don't know her husband, even if I think that it's got to be It's got to be in in the wife's mind as completely two separate subjects. I think that's how you'd have to handle it. It's a good question. Two completely separate subjects.
Okay. Dina's asking, I got married last year and feel like I was tricked. My husband is nothing like he seemed. When we were dating, he was so much fun, and now he's always grumpy. I feel like he tricked me.
Ooh, I hear that. Okay, wow. Okay, so it could be hormonal. I mean, I don't know if he's had any medical checkup, but it could be that he's got seasonal affect disorder. You met him in the spring, and now it's the middle of winter, and there's no sun out there, and that's why he's grumpy. It could also be, again, we always look. Right now you're the victim to how he's treating you, so it may very much feels like he's doing everything and you're perfect angel, whatever. We always feel like that, you're doing everything right. But we always teach that even no matter how you slice it, we're not victims, and there's always something a wife can do. So if you see that your husband's grumpy because you didn't respect him enough, or you see it because he's grew up in a house where everything was neat, and you've got 9 kids, and it's a mess, and you need to sort of introspect and see, is there something you can do? So you can ask him. You can say, I notice, you don't seem as happy as I remember you being before. Is there something I'm doing? Is there something we can do together? Is it our living arrangements? It could be that when you met him, he was a full-time learner, and now he's working and he's just not as satisfied. It could be he's got a job that he doesn't like. It could be, there's a million different things. His mother could have, his mother's sick, or his mother could have said something mean to him, or ongoingly, or he finds the adjustment to marriage particularly challenging. But it is something you can discuss with him. If you think it's more than just grumpiness, but it's depression, and he needs medical intervention for a mental health issue, or for depression, or a low self-esteem, or something that is going to that you're not qualified unless you're a physician or a mental health professional. And still you wouldn't treat your own husband. So you might be looking for outside support. But if you feel comfortable in having a conversation, if you think it's going to be fruitful, I would definitely ask him and say, you seem like, you're more I wouldn't say grumpy, because that's like, you're grumpy, you're a bad person. But I would say, you don't seem as happy as you used to. Is there something I can do to help you be more happy? Because that's our job. Okay, good.
Okay, great. Michal's asking, I enjoy wearing tichels, but for some reason my husband is against me wearing them. He only likes when I wear a snood, but I personally don't like the look of a snood. Do I need to wear a snood even if I don't like the look of it and it doesn't make me feel pretty?
Okay, very good. Good question. So the husband wants her to wear a snood, but she likes the look of a tichel better.
Yeah, I guess the tichel's a little more dressed up.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. And did she know why her husband wants her wearing a snood?
He doesn't mention that. Maybe his mom wears it. I don't know.
Yeah, because maybe he wants her to wear a snood because a tichel could be, with all these pretty fancy colors. He might feel in his own head and heart that it's not as sneeze as the tichel, that she doesn't look as good in it, which is appropriate for her, men not to look at her. I don't know if his rationale is he thinks she's prettier with a snood, or he thinks she's more sneeze with a snood. So this is a challenge that the key is to know why your husband wants you to wear a snood or tichel. If it has to do with halacha, that he feels like, oh, a snood is less showy, and so he wants his wife to be more tznius, then that's one issue. And then your attitude should be, wow, he thinks I'm so beautiful and he loves me so much. He doesn't want me to be as beautiful in front of other men. If that's the reason, you need to have that conversation with him to find out if the reason he doesn't want you to wear, he wants you to wear snoods, he likes you, thinks you're prettier there, and you're not as pretty and he feels you're not as pretty as in tichels, then and by the way, for people who don't know, snood and a tichel has has the tails on both sides. It's kind of, and for pretty patterns. A snood is more like a beret or a beanie or whatever that covers everything. It's some people wouldn't go out the house with it. Some people would, do whatever. It depends on where neighborhood where you are and what the community is. But anyway, understanding from your husband what's behind it makes all the difference. Because if it's for a holy reason that he feels it's more tznius to wear a snood, then that's a different, an added consideration than it's just he likes the look better. So you need to have a conversation with your husband and find that out. Maybe you know the answer to that, but I don't, so I don't know. It makes it a little harder to answer. But the problem is that your besides that it says that we need to do things that our husband follows his will more and brings things closer to him that he likes and keep things away that he doesn't like. So we have that obligation. We are obligated, but you're saying you don't feel pretty in it. So I think that you could say, after you find out where he's holding in terms of why he wants it like this, I would mention to him and say, I don't feel as pretty in that. I feel prettier when I'm wearing a tichel. Somehow, I just like the way my silhouette looks, or I like the look of it better. So when I'm wearing that a snood, I just don't feel so pretty. So would it be okay with you if maybe we did half the time, or maybe I'll wear a tichel all day, and when you come home, I'll wear a snood. Would that be okay with you? And would it be possible when I'm wearing the snood, every night when you come home and I put the snood on, would you at least 5 times tell me how pretty I look? That would help, or at least once a week or something like. If you could just help me get over my own hurdle, because it is a hurdle, and then try your hardest to let his kind words. If he can't do that, because a lot of men, I think, only, you know, 10 or 20% of the men would say, okay, I'll remember. And he still wouldn't. But you could say, don't I look pretty? And he'd say, oh, yeah, yeah, you look pretty. So, but I'm just saying that that might help you. But in your own mind and your own heart, it is giving up a little bit of your own feeling of prettiness to make your husband happy. And you get more merit for the effort that you put into something. So maybe that'll work for you. But this whole issue starts by having a heart-to-heart conversation with your husband, finding out why he feels the way he does, explain the way you feel about it. Let him know you really, 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 really want to make him happy. You really want to make him happy. It's so hard for you. Can he understand that it's hard for you? And even if he says, "Oh, I get it," but let's say his reason was wholly that he wanted to your stance. Actually, it's wholly for him to be more attracted to something to the snood. Okay, so whatever. But whatever he says to you, if he expresses how he feels and why he feels, and then he listens to you, and it always ends up in the way he wants it, not ideal. You didn't win, in the classic sense, but you win in Shemayim, and that's hopefully going to give you kayak, give you strength. Okay, good luck with it. It's it's people say, oh, that's such a little challenge. Every challenge, we're all given our peckle of what's hard for us. So good for you for asking the question, and Hashem should bench you with kayak to deal with whatever you have to deal with to make this to put shalom bayis at the very forefront of your mind and your heart with this situation. Kol hakavod. Okay, Gila.
I mean, okay, great. From us asking, my husband's sisters are super into name brands and style, and I'm more simple and practical. I'm always thinking I'm not posh enough for my husband because of his family's lifestyle. Do I need to step up my game?
So I wish we could I wish we could ask
From
her
us,
if
yeah.
if he said anything. If he doesn't care, you got nothing to worry about. Zehu, zehu, if he's complaining. So to answer the question, no, you don't need to step up your game, be exactly who you are or whatever if he hasn't said anything. If he's complaining or talking about it at all, or ever said anything, or let something slip or whatever about poshness, turn to him and say, listen, you married me because I'm simple and whatever, and I'm a little different than your family. What in your ideal thing, are you okay with me being the way I am? Do you want me to wear designer stuff or whatever? It really does nothing for me. But what do you care if your purse has not a black, just plain black, or it has a designer name on it? I mean, unless you feel like it's being showy to other people and it's putting the wrong impression, and you want to be more down to earth. Unless if you feel very strongly against that kind of a thing, okay, that's a different situation than but if you could care less one way or the other, and he wants you to wear it, so wear it. I had a woman whose husband wanted her to drive a Tesla, and she called me up and said, I feel so embarrassed. I'm driving into carpool and people are staring, whatever. I guess it's a very expensive car. People are staring. What do I do? And I'm like, this is your lot in life, but for her, it's a problem. I was like, here's the answer. Give me the Tesla. And no, so the point is that you have to make some kind of a conversation about it so that there's a communication and it's open and you can work through it together. But I would be very honest with them and say, you might in your head, because they're all walking in with their different designer stuff, you might in your head thinking, oh, my husband's looking down on me, when that could be the furthest thing from his mind. So I would have a conversation with him. And if you don't mind and he wants you to wear that stuff, okay, like that. Okay. All right, time for one last question. Yeah, let's
Yes,
go
time for
ahead.
one last question.
Okay.
Zahav is asking, I've become very successful in my business and I feel like my husband's a bit jealous. He picks apart my career and I don't know what approach to take with him.
So if she was sitting in front of me, I'd say, what does your husband say when, when you told your husband that, hey, are you picking up part my thing? Why are you doing that? What did he say? But I have a feeling if she's asking this question to me, she didn't ask that same question to him. So what you need to look at, and you have to handle this very, very carefully, is you need to find out from him in a very quiet, when you're both well fed, both well rested, both, the kids are taken care of, there's no imminent crisis going on. No, does that ever happen? If that ever happens in your life in 10 years from now? No, but find a very, very quiet time and say, I'm not quite sure what to do. I don't want to make a mountain out of a molehill, and maybe I'm taking things personally, and maybe it's hard, but I feel like sometimes you aren't happy that I'm successful in the career in this thing. I mean, do you want me to give it up? Do you want me to, be less successful? Oh, please explain what your feelings are about this, and just zip it up, duct tape, then let him talk, and he'll say, no, why do you think that's true? And blah, blah. And I'm like, well, you said this thing last week, and you said the other thing the other week, and I just get the sense that there's something about me being successful here that's troubling for you. I, I understand it, because if I mean, I don't have a competitive nature. Maybe you do, or whatever, then don't say that. But I'm just saying, but some people have a competitive nature, and I'm not sure what to do about this, but all I know is I feel that tension, and I don't want that tension to be between us. I love us, and I love you, and I love our relationship, and I love our family, and I feel very lucky to be in our family, but I feel that there's this tension underneath it, and I mean, maybe it's because your father was more successful than your mother, or your mother was more, the history, you can point, but perhaps there's something there. Say, I don't want to blame it on anybody. All I want to do is to work with you and figure out how to make this better, because I don't want this to be between us. We have such beautiful things in our life. We are so fortunate. Hashem has been so good to us, and I don't want to have this feeling anymore. Can you offer any suggestions or ideas how we can solve this? Does that make sense? Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, is there, am I leaving anything out? I want to make sure I cover that, because you know, that's a lonely feeling, to feel like your husband's not on your team, but I think you got to figure it out. And by the way, if you're the kind of person who blurts things out and says things without saying, and says hurtful things, whatever, then do this with such kid gloves, with so carefully. Make a journal, write down what I want to say. Oh no, then he'll react this way. Okay, maybe I could say it like that. Oh, then he'll react this way, and make a very clear, page after page in your journal of how to get it out, or practice it with your sister or somebody. You want to be very careful about lashon hara, but practice role playing with somebody of how you can give it over without making your husband defensive. And another thing to think about this is that it's very, very possible that you're being successful in your work means that dinner is never on time, or there is no dinner, or it's always takeout, or the kids aren't getting their homework done, or whatever, and he's getting frustrated. The house looks like a mess or something. I don't know. I'm just making this stuff up. I don't know you, don't know your life or whatever, but when somebody has a frenzy, busy business that's growing and fabulous, stuff falls through the cracks. So maybe he's upset about that, and he's taking it out on you in this way. So I would look at all these things. Again, when you're journaling this, have clarity in your own mind how you're going to approach it and what kinds of questions you're going to ask. You don't want him to get defensive, or the whole thing could backfire. You want to do it in a way that he can hear what you are saying, and and there's a closeness that develops in the conversation, not a God forbid the opposite. So, okay, I wish you a lot of luck with it, and Hashem should bench you that you should be able to think of what to say and to say it beautifully and softly and sweetly in a way that your husband can hear it and your husband can cherish your success. So the homework for this week is to think in your mind about one thing that you feel that your husband don't see eye to eye on. Okay, one thing like, and then Leah, there's 100. No, but just pick one thing that your husband and you don't see eye to eye, and then you get your journal out and or and think about how can you uh how can you have a conversation with your husband that can get you on the other side of that hurdle? How can you solve it once and for all? Like, for 10 years, the husband comes home and he throws his coat on the floor, throws his coat and I want throw it on the floor. For 50 cents, you could have bought a hook and put it on the wall. You know what I'm saying? So find solutions, but first of all, come up with one thing that you don't see eye to eye and figure out a solution. Okay, that's the homework. Lots of love. Leah Richheimer.